Thank you all for joining us. Columbian is very pleased to welcome Marie Gluesenkamp Perez, candidate for Congress from Washington's 3rd District. The other candidate in the race, Joe Kent, declined our invitation to meet with the editorial board, but we're happy to have Marie. I'm Greg Jane. I'm the editorial page editor at the Columbian, and I'll let the other editorial board members introduce themselves. Start with Jody.
Hi, I'm Jody Campbell, member of the editorial board.
And then Scott.
Scott Campbell, recently retired publisher of the Columbian.
And Craig. Oh, your mic's on or off. You're on mute.
Sorry, my phone was ringing. I'm Craig Brown. I'm a member of the editorial board and the editor of the Columbian.
And then Colleen Keller, member of the editorial board, is with us in this meeting. I believe she can hear us, but I don't think we can hear her.
Finally better turn it off because
so yeah, I don't think we can hear her. And then we do have a reporter, Lauren Ellenbecker, is sitting in on this meeting. She won't be asking questions in this forum, but may want to speak with you later and maybe writing an article about this interview. So with that, oh, and I should mention we are recording this. It will be posted unedited at Columbian.com and on our YouTube channel for the benefit of the community. And with that, we get the important part. Maria, thank you for joining us. Why don't you take 1 to 2 minutes, introduce yourself, explain why you are running, and then we will get to some specific policy questions. So, welcome.
Thank you so much, Greg, and thank you so much to the board for having me here today and bringing some light to this race. My name is Marie Gluesenkamp Perez. I am the Democratic nominee for U.S. Congress running in the 3rd Congressional District. I'm a small business owner. I own an auto repair and machine shop with my husband. We're a 6-bay shop. An independent shop, have a 14-month-old son, and I live in rural Skamania County. Rural infrastructure generally is something that's important to me. I am someone who gets my water from a well. I get my internet from a radio tower. And so those infrastructure issues are, I think, critical to addressing our economy broadly and ensuring that we are all in a thriving America. Listen, I run a small business for a living. I have spent the last 2 years making sure that we are making payroll, navigating a pandemic, paying my taxes, and running for Congress was not on my list of things to do this year. I am somebody that has spreadsheets for camping trips. So this was a quick decision for us, and really what motivated it was seeing frankly, a lot of Joe Kent yard signs where there should have been Jamie Herrera Butler signs, and a sense that I spent some time watching his YouTube videos and realizing this was a person with some really radical ideas, someone that is not only specific bad ideas about where to take our country, and I believe that normal people have to start standing up and running in these races. We need a Congress that looks more like America. We need small business owners. We need people who work in the trades. We need people who don't have broadband internet at home. They're more if things are going to get better. And I firmly believe that I'm not the candidate that you vote for because I know all the policy issues. I'm voting because I'm moderate. I believe in hard work, because I have a demonstrated ability to listen and understand complex issues and involve a broad range of stakeholders in those discussions. So I'm so glad to get the opportunity to talk with you all today about issues that are important to all of us in the 3rd Congressional District.
Great, and thank you again for joining us. And just if we do have any technical difficulties, I think there is some static on the line. We'll just do our best and move from there. So you touched on some of them. There obviously are a lot of issues from a congressional standpoint that affect Southwest Washington. In your mind, what are the top priorities for Southwest Washington? What would be your first focus?
I think the thing we're all thinking about is the economy right now. Our economy has been battered by a global pandemic that we have not experienced in our lifetimes before, by an unjust war in Ukraine. There are supply shocks. There are supply chain issues. And I'm somebody that looks at my receipt at the grocery store. And every time I'm like, is that really, is there a mistake? I mean, food prices are going up, gas is going up. And, I've seen a lot of politicians sort of try to explain it away and say, oh, it's transitory, or, oh, it's driven by, things that the average consumer is not experiencing. That's so annoying to me. This economy is hurting all of us. And we need people that are navigating it like I am, trying to make payroll, like my employees are, trying to figure out how we can put away money for retirement, maybe even put some money in our kids' college fund. So I think there are specific things that we need to be doing in Congress to be supporting our economy. I think that a lot of the trade policies have not been good for American manufacturing and American jobs. I mentioned that I own a machine shop. We bought out that machine shop in 2020 because we were seeing that the quality of parts that we are getting from a lot of our trading allies and partners they're disposable. They're not repairable. These things are bad for the middle class. There is something that is deeply broken in our economy when small business owners like me need to manufacture their own parts to be able to fix cars. We need to be supporting job creation, good quality workforce development. We are in a place where we have record low unemployment, and I think that's great. We also, I own an auto repair shop. I had a now hiring sign up for 8 months, and I'm willing to bet that a lot of people watching this today are on wait lists for plumbers, electricians, carpenters. We've got to return career and technical programs to a position of prestige in our society. And one of the ways that Congress can do that is by moving to ensure that Pell Grants can be used for apprenticeship programs, just the same way that you could use them in a 2 or 4 year degree. These are a path to middle class, comfortable life, and they deserve our support and respect as well.
Now, you mentioned inflation, which, yes, affects everybody. What would you say to critics who say that Democratic policies have led to this inflation? What would you do differently?
Well, we are in a global market. I would say there aren't Democrats in Germany where energy prices have soared, 40%. I would say that Biden has approved more permits for exploratory leases on gas in 1 year in 2021 than Trump did in his entire administration. So we've got to get energy prices under control. I think that's the biggest, one of the biggest drivers of inflation. And that means more energy production, whether it's petroleum or renewable energy. And I think that's something that we are leaders in Washington State. 90% of our renewable comes from hydro. So I think there are broad things we can do policy-wise to support bringing down gas prices. I think that Biden is doing the right thing by drawing on our strategic reserves for energy. I think that a lot of us are sort of concerned about this dichotomy we're getting shoved into of like, either you're in an economic space where you can buy an electric vehicle, or you're going to have to ride the bus. I don't think that's an equitable solution. I think we need to preserve the middle ground there. I also think that we need some regulatory reform. The permit reviews for any drilling, like those need to be on a timeline, not just like an open-ended environmental review. And I also think it comes back to, we're starting to sit in traffic again. Like we have congestion in our infrastructure. That is, wasted energy that's not doing anyone any good. So it does come back to, one of the primary roles of the federal government, ensuring we have strong infrastructure systems.
Great. We'll move on. Craig?
Sure. So the conventional wisdom has the 3rd Congressional District as being pretty conservative and tending to vote Republican. How do you as a Democrat pick up some of those Republican votes to get over the top? Especially how do you appeal to people that might be disenchanted with Joe Kent?
Yeah, I really believe we've got to bring back the middle ground, the sort of silent majority in politics. I think we've really let clickbait politics suck all the oxygen out and control the dialogue. And a lot of those issues are not measurably improving Americans' lives. And what I can pledge to do is to bring back common sense dialogue, to bring back the work in the middle. It's interesting because there is data on who passes bills in Congress, and it is not extremists. They cannot forge the alliances that are necessary to deliver for their districts. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not going to be getting bills passed anytime soon. And we really need to be supporting moderates. This district is actually one that has a strong record of electing moderates, from Jamie Herrera Butler to Brian Baer, Don Bonker. These are people that knew how to build bridges, not burn them down. And I think, one strategic advantage we have is that my opponent continues to make claims that he is trying to purge the Republican Party of moderates. He's not interested in building a team. He's not interested in delivering for our district. He's not even interested in bringing home federal dollars. He said that the omnibus bill was too long and he wouldn't read it or vote for it. He wants our federal tax dollars to go somewhere else, go to California and fix their problems. And so, I, as a small business owner, as a rural American, I think that I have, similar concerns and lived experience to a lot of moderates, regardless of what their political platform is. And that's why I'm really proud to have the support of people like David Nuremberg and Kathy McDonald and Julie Olson, Republicans that are standing up for the middle ground.
Thank you.
Scott or Jody?
Marie, I just want to kind of follow up with Craig's question. So I just want to clarify, you consider yourself a moderate?
That's right.
Okay.
And to follow up on that, as far as policy within the kind of the Democratic dogma, where do you disagree with your party? What policy issues?
Well, I think that one thing that, listen, like climate change is a crisis and it needs to be addressed. But I feel like there's a lot of magical thinking about how we're going to get there. We need to take these issues seriously, but it's got to be done in a way that's equitable and that's on a realistic timeline. I think we should all be kind of concerned that, every climate goal ends in a 5 or a 0. I think that points to the unseriousness of how we're going to get there. I believe that we need people that work in the trades at the table making those decisions and charting a path to get us out of this catastrophe. Another area that I break with my party on that comes to mind is certainly guns. A lot of Democrats support what are known as assault weapons bans. That's not my position. I am a gun owner. I live in a rural district where every house I can see from mine has guns in it. That said, I think that one of the pragmatic solutions to the gun violence we're seeing is increasing the age at which young people can purchase what are known as assault weapons to 21. I think that as a society, it's clear, kids are just not as old as they used to be. 21 is not the same as it used to be. 18 is not the same. And I think that is one area where we can make improvements.
But you would not support an assault weapon ban.
No.
You would want to increase the age for purchase. What about other gun control measures? Do you agree with the measures that were passed by Congress earlier this year? How would you have voted on those?
Yes, I do. I do think those are the right directions to protect people from who are in mental health crises. Yeah.
So those, I think, those could also be turned around regarding the approach to climate change and gun control as issues where you largely agree with Republicans.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to chart, a middle course, and that's what I'm here to do. I don't see myself as someone that is trying to align strongly with either party. I think I'm trying to represent the views of my district and my own experience.
And given that from that perspective, who are some of the people in Congress who you admire, who you would try to emulate?
Well, I think people like Peter DeFazio did a good job. He is from a similar district, lots of timber, lots of fishing, really delivered for his district in terms of infrastructure and coalition building. That's someone who I think has proudly served his country and effectively served his district.
Marie, you mentioned infrastructure as a essential role of the federal government. What do you think about the I-5 bridge, and what other infrastructure projects do you see as needed in this area?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, I drive over the 205 as much as I can, especially if I've got the baby in the car, because I don't have a lot of confidence in a 95-year-old bridge. And it's time for us to make our infrastructure an asset. Small businesses rely on transportation. We rely on our customers being able to get to us. And that's what our tax dollars are for, is to build something right and have an asset. And right now, so much of our infrastructure is a liability, and we're choosing the most expensive option, which is atrophy. Another important criteria for me is that when we invest in these infrastructure projects, that they are built with American-made steel. They are built with Southwest Washington labor, and in the process, we are generating our own ability to be leaders in the trades going forward. I mean, internet access is another huge piece of the infrastructure puzzle. So many kids in Skamania County had a really, really tough time trying to navigate online school without broadband internet at home. And it has economic implications, not only in terms of education for our kids, but also for people trying to do telehealth, trying to bring down the cost of healthcare. And it's also suppressing property values. You can't work from home. People just will not be diversifying our jobs in the district. 80% of employed people in my county, Skamania County, work outside of the county because there's a lack of broadband and there's a lack of good quality jobs.
What role can Congress play in improving that?
Well, I think, specifically in my county, I think one of the issues is cleaning up the woods. And that's not something that just affects Skamania County. Right now, we are, everybody knows the woods are a mess, and that's policies that have been coming down the pipe for a generation, namely a lack of controlled burning. We've got to thin the woods. We've got to get them in a place where they are an asset, where we are growing the timber that we rely on to address our housing issues, that we are preventing climate catastrophe. I mean, everybody knows now there's just a month or two every summer where we've got to, close all the windows, close all the doors, bring the air filters inside, and don't let the kids out. That is what climate catastrophe looks like. And addressing that will create a lot of good family wage jobs. I believe in the climate crisis. I just believe in a different approach than what I'm seeing championed by a lot of people in Congress right now.
How would you characterize that approach that you disagree with?
Well, this idea that we're going to regulate our way out of it, and that, we're, not going to have rural communities. We're all going to move to cities, and drive electric vehicles. Like, listen, I probably live 20 miles from the nearest charging station. And I've never bought a new car in my life. So, an electric vehicle, it's not the best option for us right now. And I think we've got to drastically expand the definition of what it means to have a green job. Like, a green job is not just running a recycling plant. Like, a green job is an electrician wiring in a heat pump. It's a mechanic stopping an oil leak from a car going into the river. It's somebody putting in spray foam insulation. It's trades jobs. And I don't see that perspective being championed or represented in Congress right now.
When you talk about trade jobs, is there an approach that Congress can take, or would that be up to the legislature? Is that a state-by-state issue?
Well, certainly from the perspective of the Pell Grants, we can pass a bill to make Pell Grants available for use in apprenticeship programs, which are one of the primary ways that people gain mastery in the trades.
Okay. Scott, did you have anything?
Excuse me, Marie. So there was a proposal to build a bridge upstream from the Interstate 5 bridge. Are you a supporter of that idea, or do you think that should be put on hold?
I think that I'm not sure. I haven't seen all the proposals for the proposed third bridge, but I do think right now it is clear that we need to address the Columbia River crossing.
That would be your first priority.
That's right.
Right.
Well,
Go ahead.
what role should Congress or the federal government play in getting that proposal moving forward?
Well, my role in Congress is to ensure that we get the best deal we can, that we are submitting the most advocacy to bring those dollars home and address what is a lifeline to our region. All up and down the West Coast relies on that bridge functioning. That's my role, is bringing home those federal tax dollars.
Okay, Craig, you had something?
Well, I was going to ask the same question, Greg, but I'll ask a different one. So what should the U.S. role be in Ukraine?
Well, I guess I'd like to table set a minute and just point out that Vladimir Putin invaded a sovereign democratic nation. And that should horrify all of us. Because if Ukraine falls, Europe is in danger. And if Europe is in danger, we are in danger. My opponent has called Putin reasonable. Putin is a man who has threatened nuclear war, 4 times now? You can't have it both ways. You can't be a reasonable guy and threatening nuclear Armageddon. And so I believe that the role of the U.S. is to provide the tools necessary for the Ukraine to end the war on their own terms and stand up for democracy.
But what would you say about those who believe that the U.S. we've been the world's policeman for too long and we should start staying out of these things?
Well, I think that no one is talking about sending soldiers here, right? We are not talking about sending Americans to die in Ukraine. We are talking about supporting the Ukrainian people in their fight for freedom and sovereignty. And if they lose, they die, and there are mass graves all over Ukraine proving that fact.
Now, and to play devil's advocate, was it the same thing said about that we were defending the people of Vietnam and we were defending the people of Korea and we're defending the people of Iraq?
Well, I mean, we send American soldiers to all of those engagements.
Mm-hmm.
It is different.
Sure. Gonna switch topics here. I believe that one policy difference between you and your opponent is that Mr. Kent has called for a nationwide ban on abortion. Where do you stand on the issue?
I think that is a disaster for the rights of women and a gross overreach of federal government. You know, I think the people in Washington state have been very, very clear that we support a woman's right to choose. And that's not important to my opponent. What's important to him is his own ideology. He wants to, shove his ideology down our throats in Washington state. And I think that's wrong. I think we've been very clear what our standards are, what we believe in, just standing up for a woman's right to choose. I am really tired, frankly, of talking about my miscarriage, but it's a terrible thing. 1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage. And the last thing that women need is state troopers showing up on your porch the next day, asking to prove what really happened. That is a nightmare, authoritarian overreach into some of the most private personal decisions and experiences that women ever have.
Now, and you mentioned that people of Washington have made clear that they support abortion access. So should it be up to the individual states?
No, I think that this is, it is bigger than that. I think there's a role for the federal government in these laws.
And so you would support congressional action affirming the right to an abortion?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Marie, what are some of the major topics that you think are important that we haven't touched on?
I think housing and homelessness are things that are, hitting all of us. Right now in America, there's a shortage of 7 million housing units. I actually, my husband and I actually built our house ourselves in Skamania County. And one of the reasons that we had to do that is because small business owners like us can't find private lenders to work with. And that was how we could get our foot in the door of the housing market, which is one of the primary ways we build wealth. This is a generational crisis. If people in my generation can't get housing, they can't accrue net worth. Their retirements are in danger. I mean, this has cascading effects for generations. And I think there are sort of 3 ways that we can improve the housing situation. One of the primary inputs to housing is labor. We've got to clean up our immigration system, ensure that legal immigration can come in and help with the jobs necessary to build homes. I think we've got to support the career and technical education, the skilled trades that we can grow at home to build more houses. This is a problem we can fix, right? It just comes down to building more houses. It's a supply issue. It's also an issue of an overregulated industry. We've got to start cutting red tape, and helping address this crisis. And then I think, the other issue is liquidity. We've got to ensure that there are the dollars there to support both builders and buyers. There are inequities in the system. If you are buying through the FHA, you have to hold mortgage insurance for the life of the loan. That's not how things work in the private market. I think we can ensure that people who are qualified to buy houses have better access to that capital to do it, and also that the builders producing these have a reliable revenue source and the funds to help build those through the housing trust, things like that.
Now, and you mentioned that the answer is we need more housing. We need to build more. Would that, in a way, would that threaten the rural areas of Skamania County? What do we just allow sprawl to encroach?
Well, I think that density is, by and large, people like to live near where they work. So in some cases, it means building up. In some cases, it means supporting careful transportation planning so that housing is near developing roadways and highway systems. It depends, it's not a one size fits all sort of approach.
And is that more up to local and state governments, or should the federal government play a role in that?
Yeah, I think typically, yes, the locals and the state and the cities have a good grasp.
And then another issue you mentioned in relation to this is immigration. What kind of immigration policy would you favor? And I believe your opponent has called for closing the borders for a specified period of time.
Yeah, immigration is critical to resolving so many of the issues we're facing, that are and let me just start off by saying that I do not support open borders. I believe that countries have a right and a responsibility to know who's coming into their borders, and I believe that we can do that most effectively and most financially prudently through electronic enforcement, through more technology at the border, not through a wall that people can scale, but more support for Border Patrol and technology. And, in some of these industries, legal, certified, authorized immigration, these folks account for, in some cases, up to 30% of a given workforce. And that can certainly be true in places like agriculture and construction come to mind. So it is absolutely a part of bringing down the cost of our groceries, of bringing down the cost of our housing. You think groceries are expensive now? Wait till my opponent ends all immigration. I mean, that is how you get $40 cranberry sauce on your Thanksgiving table. And I think that we've seen some leadership from here in Washington State. I mean, Dan Newhouse's bill, the Farm Workforce Modernization Act, I think that's a great step in the right direction. That is something that has caught my eye. And, in terms of addressing the backlog at the border, we need to support a surge of judges to go down and process asylum cases. It's an unconscionable wait line right now.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Marie, then, why don't you give us your final pitch for why voters should support you, and mention a couple of endorsements that you're particularly proud of.
Everybody thinks the race they're involved in is the most important race of the century. But I think that in this case, my opponent truly is the most extreme candidate we have ever seen nominated in Washington State. I think that right now we have a Congress that doesn't particularly look like America. We don't have many young moms. We don't have working moms. We don't have business owners. We don't have people working in the trades. And I think we need more people in Congress who know how to fix stuff. And we have an opportunity here not only to keep an extremist out, but to affirm our identity as a district of people who believe in hard work, who believe in fixing things, who believe in moderation. And at the same time, have effective representation for our district. I am somebody that is a job creator. I am somebody that worries about making payroll. And if we want to get our economy back on track, it's important we start supporting small business owners. As somebody doing the work, I have some ideas about what needs to be done to grow our workforce and support entrepreneurship. Clickbait politics has sucked the oxygen out of all the room. And I think that a lot of us are really, really tired of feeling like, we have to look at somebody's bumper sticker before we decide if we're going to pull over and help them on the side of the road. Like the way that we are patriotic is by being mean to people that disagree with us online. Like, that is a very lonely place for us to be as a society. And I think we're all frankly exhausted of the polarization. We want to get back to a place where we have civic dialogue, and sure, we're going to disagree about things, but we can have those hard facts. And so that's why I think my proudest endorsements are from Republicans. It means so much to me to grow the missing middle is what we've got to bring back. And it means so much to me to have leadership that is standing up and putting patriotism above partisanship. These are people we should be celebrating. So I am honored to have been able to lead some of these conversations and create space for this.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Marie. And I should mention again, Joe Kent declined our invitation to meet with the editorial board, but we are pleased to have you and wish you the best of luck. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all so much. Really a pleasure.
Thanks, Marie.